Welcome back, episode 81 of the Ground Up Podcast. We are going to go through the Renters' Rights Reform Bill, HMO top tips, audience questions.
They were the ones overbidding on properties and breaking this own law. Fuck.
This is going to push them straight out of the market.
You're probably more educated than me, but I'm going to buy you a history book. Look,
We bought property for, I think, 1.1 million quid, and we spent £1 million creating 14 semi-self-contained studios.
this is a prime example of politics, and I've witnessed this firsthand.
20 hamsters, 100 rabbits, loads of fish, 3 dogs, 5 cats.
Now it's just ChatGPT battles back and forward.
Yeah, no courts, free for all.
Testimonial from Ryan Beaumont. Absolute G.
They offered us so much money for HMOs, like more than what we'd get in the open market.
You can't measure, what's the word again? You can't, oh my God, what is it?
3 hours later.
You can't something what you don't measure. What is it, Jack?
Hello, I identify as a lizard.
I reckon that's cool. I think that's awesome.
The biggest problem that's happened to the property market is
Ground up sound. Ooh, yeah. Real estate deals. We lay them down, let's get those deals. Deals, deals. Deals making money, baby.
welcome back, episode 81 of the Ground Up Podcast. Today, you've got myself and Jack Jiggins. So I'm Ryan Beaumont. This is Jack Jiggins. Dorian Payne is meant to join. He's late, or his laptop's not working. We're not sure. And Stuart's moving house. So Stuart has a very good excuse this week, other than his holidays the other weeks, and more holidays before those weeks. But the boys will be back next week.
It's not easy, is it, right? Being the best two looking and the best, most punctual as well.
I know. I wouldn't. When we set up this podcast, I wouldn't have thought that I was going to be the most punctual. Like, I do quite like being punctual and showing up to stuff, but I honestly thought I thought me and Stu would probably be the ones that were like trying to make it on time every time. But it turns out me and Jack, we're here, like, we're always here, banging ready, and then we're like, where's Stu? Where's D? Are they even going to show up? D might still show up, but his laptop's playing up apparently. But nonetheless, today we've got what's going to be a very useful topic for those in the property space. We are going to go through the Renters' Rights Reform Bill, just on the key aspects of the bill that will affect landlords, investors, developers alike, and then HMO top tips, because Jack's gone through a really good presentation recently, and there'll be some useful nuggets and insights there if you're looking to do HMOs. And then audience questions. We're bringing them back. We've had a lot of comments over the last few weeks on the YouTube channels. And sorry we've neglected a lot of those. We're trying to figure out the right format for this, and we've just brought on a load of marketing guys, and they're going to help us with the community management aspect and getting what do you guys really want to see, what value can we really offer, because there's a lot going on in our circles and stuff, and we can talk about anything really. We just need good direction. So, and you guys can help direct us if you want us to talk about certain things. Then let us know in the comments on YouTube. That is the best way for you to help regulate good content that we can provide, hopefully. And we'll still do our chin wagging because we like catching up with each other. But anyway, subscribe. Big love. Thank you for tuning in. And should we get straight to the Renters' Right Reform Bill, mate? Into the meat of it?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, Renters' Rights Bill becomes law. So the Renters' Rights Bill is now the Renters' Rights Act. It has been given royal assent and is now an act. And now it's up to the government to prove that it works for renters and landlords alike, say the National Residential Landlords Association.
That's interesting. Works for the renters and the landlords.
Yeah.
I don't think it works for landlords at all.
But worse, I think it really doesn't work for the renters. So, and we'll go through that now. We'll figure the consequences of these bills. So, implementation dates for different measures within the Act have not been released, but are expected imminently. So, keep an eye out on this space. And as a reminder, key elements of the Renters' Rights Act are the following, and we're going to go through each one now. So, end of so-called no-fault evictions. The measure abolishes Section 21 of the Housing Act 1988, which allows landlords to evict tenants without a stated reason. So, Jack, I think maybe with each of these we could go, does it help landlords? Does it help tenants? And then a little bit of a little bit of Oh, here's D. Hello,
A
D.
little bit of Dorian is
In
here.
our life.
Buongiorno! Ah,
Buongiorno. Hello
Did
in
you
Welsh.
you manage to feed that laptop with some coal to get it going?
I have got a new laptop. I don't know if you've seen in the picture. It's behind it, but I haven't been able to set it up. Well, Ethan, my IT guy, has set it up. I just haven't been able to open it and transition yet because it's going from
It's a
Apple to
Mac.
Microsoft.
You just pull up the top
Yeah,
part
lift it up,
and
mate.
it opens it.
To be fair, I probably should have done that because this one this morning I had to reset it 3 times. But I've got a new laptop. I'm gonna have a new setup. So hopefully from next week onwards for the ground up community, you will have Dorian Payne in more of a HD than you have him now.
Oh, wow.
Hold your breath.
Fucking
Hold your
hell.
breath.
Hi Dorian.
Oh, fortunate
We
viewers. Amazing.
we dove straight into the renters form. So
I can see
you're
this. Look at that.
Yeah, we're straight into the Renters' Rights Bill, D, and we're on the first clause, so you're just in time. And we're basically going to talk about, is it good for landlords, good for tenants, and then a little bit of back and forth, and then we'll go on to the next part of the bill, etc. So, first one for D's benefit is on screen there. So, the end of no fault evictions. This measure abolishes Section 21 from the Housing Act 1988, which allows landlords to evict tenants without a stated reason. So I'll give my quick 2 cents on this and then pass it round. Why should it be anyone but the landlord's choice and whatever commercial agreement they decide to come up with the tenant as to whether or not they want to abolish someone? As not abolish someone, as whether or not they want to evict someone from their property. I do think there should always be a notice period. I think the 2-month notice period is completely fair both ends, and I think that's enough regulation it needs. I think if a landlord wants their property back because they might want to move one of their kids in or move their uncle in who suddenly had a family emergency, and now it's like, do you know what, mate? I've got a property for you. Sorry, Mr. Tenant. Like, I'm going to prioritize my family. Like, just all these. That's just one example. There's just so many free market examples as to why the government should not be stepping in here and regulating. And I think it just gives too much power to the tenant who's otherwise paying for an asset that a landlord has saved a lot of money up for, put risk capital on the table to acquire the asset, to pay the mortgage through upwinds, downwinds. As look at 2008, that killed off a lot of people. My dad was one of those people, lost a lot of property, was completely destroyed our family position, and we had to move back to the UK and all that kind of stuff. So
He should have bought them through Beaumont's partners, to be honest, shouldn't he?
exactly. Yeah, he did it wrong. But ultimately, it's not that landlords don't always. It doesn't always just you buy a property and it works. Like there's all these risks that you have to take into account. The idea that a tenant could just come in and now they basically could take the property on until such time they're evicted. Now for me, I'm not going to evict someone for those sort of reasons. I can't see why I would. So I'm not overly fussed, but I can see many other reasons in the property sector where there's some landlords who have 1 or 2 properties, and it's great if they can offer that to their kids. I know landlords who put their kids or cousins or whatever in their properties to give them a leg up in the city and all that kind of shit. And I just think it ossifies that free movement. That's my 2 cents. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, completely agree. Obviously, we're quite commercially minded, with the backgrounds and what we do day to day. So, our view is if the owner of a property is taking that risk and delivering that site or delivering that project, they have control over whether it's going to be tenanted or not. They might want to enhance it. They might want to refurbish it. They might want to move into it themselves. So it does make the parameters a little bit more difficult. And if you look at let's just say you run a car hire company and you rent your cars out to people, and you've got a car that is always been a good owner, and then someone that uses that car is a really bad driver and the clutch goes on it more frequently. They're technically not in fault of using the vehicle because it's just their driving habit, and you go, actually, we don't want to take that customer on board because we're losing money now. You can then just choose to not work with that customer again, and that's business. That's just if you have someone that doesn't respect something, you can choose, I do not want my service to go to that person, and that's that, and you kind of cut them out of it, and it's down to them to then go and figure out hiring from another place or buying their own car or whatever it may be. So the difficulty you have here is you're locked in to customers that you might not want to have locked in. And it's difficult because the phrase no fault is the assumption of this is that the tenant has not done anything wrong. But in a business, there's more decision making, in my opinion, should be led towards the business owner, because it's not their fault they've got a divorce and need to sell the property. It's not their fault that they've so equally there should be, to make this fair, there should also be a no fault position for the landlord, that they are also in a comfortable position to be able to change what they're offering. And I think it should be, every time that we've evicted a tenant, we've always found them another option, a relative similar price, similar location option. And what makes it really difficult is sometimes they just don't want to move. And you say, look, we'll pay for your removals. We found you another property. It's one bed flat down the road. We want to renovate the property, so we want you out. And they don't have to take you up on that. And this is going to make it even worse, which makes it even worse for us as landlords. And actually, the most success we've had, because this is kind of, one layer is a buy-to-let flat, right? The next layer is you've got 6 tenants in an HMO, 2 have left, and you're like, actually, let's take this opportunity to refurbish the building and get vacant possession. You've then got 4 individual people, all on 4 individual incentive timeframes to try and get them out. And the more, it's almost like the problem is not 4 times the problem. It's amplified more so, because the likelihood of you getting all 4 out in simultaneous fashion is near impossible. So for HMO landlords, it makes it a lot more difficult if you're changing anything.
Sorry.
Go on, Dig.
Oh no, sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to. I thought I was on mute, but never mind. So Wales went through something similar a while back called Rent Smart Wales. That came in ages ago, and then an advancement from that is they abolished the Section 21 in Wales as well. So it's been gone for us for a little while, and but you can still give no fault evictions. It's just you can't give them within the first 6 months, and you can't, and the notice period is 6 months. So basically, they can stay in for a year. So it's my understanding. I got 2 things, right? One, I slightly disagree with you both in that 2 months is sufficient time. I am actually in agreement that 2 months isn't enough time in today's world. It just is too difficult. There's not enough properties really out there. And it's way, way, way too stressful, in my opinion. Imagine if you had a family and you were working and you didn't really have much disposable income, and you just issued with a 2 months notice, and you go on Rightmove now, and most of the time, if you put a rent search function in within your budget, they're just not really there. They come up and they get snapped up so quickly. So I am in agreement that 2 months isn't enough.
Flip that on its head, though. Flip that on its head. Now I'm the family, and I'm the dad. I've lost my job, and I need to get out of this tenancy. I want a shorter period, right? I want to be able to go, all right, I've got 2 months left to stomach this rent, and I'll find somewhere smaller and downsize.
Yeah, but I think tenants should be able to give 2 months notice, but landlords shouldn't be able to give 2 months notice. That's just my piece, because
Can I just dive in quickly? I don't actually agree it should be any months in the sense that, not immediate effect. I believe that I believe that as soon as a workable solution has been found out, that determines the timeframes. What we're trying to prevent
I'm with you on that. Yeah,
what we're trying to prevent here is someone not having a home.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that takes it down what could be a very litigative kind of route. Here we go, debate. I just think if you leave the big problem here, the biggest problem that's happened to the property market is all of the bureaucracy, all of the different rules and the different this and the different that and the subjectivity. And I think if they just went, it's 2 months, it's 2 months. If you don't pay your rent, you're out within a month. If you just make it super simple for people, the free market decides the rest.
Your proposed new system in the rent in England is quite simple. You have a Section 8 still. You can still give notice if you want to do refurbishment. You can still give notice.
Oh, yeah, but you can't if someone goes, I've got mental health, I'm really struggling to pay my thingy.
That's a different conversation now.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not, because it's the excuses and it's the exploitation of bureaucracy that people know they can do.
Well, in the old system, Section 8 notices had mandatory grounds, right? So regardless of the only thing they could do is give them more time because when they went to court, the only thing they could really argue is having more time because they need special assistance. But other than that, the Section 8 notices used to be there was mandatory conditions. Now, where I don't know, and this to be confirmed, is under your new system when the 21 is abolished and the Section 8 is still in place, and you can still
Section
give
8 is still in
3 months
place, yeah.
notice.
Yeah, Section 8 is still in place.
Which ones of them are mandatory grounds? Because again, once you've issued the notice and it expires, you can issue a court application, and the only thing really they can give them is just more time, and that's up to the judge. But which clause, what is mandatory under the new Section 8s, or are they staying the same?
I think Section 8 remains the same. At least I've not seen that in this act, in this bill that we're reading today. But from when they initially proposed it, I believe Section 21, no fault evictions, abolishes everything other than if you're selling the property. If you're selling the property, then you can still evict.
I know under Section 8, you should still be able to evict if you want to do a major refurbishment or if they're in rent arrears or persistent rent arrears.
I think it's just sell. I think it's just for selling.
Is it?
I think so. That's what I've read before.
If that's the case, then that is a problem because I didn't think that was the case. I thought you still had the Section 8, so I didn't really what. So if you still have the Section 8 where you can issue notice if you want to refurbish, if you want to if you want to if they've got rent arrears or serious rent or persistent rent arrears or if they're antisocial or all that sort of stuff, then I don't think there's much of a problem, to be honest with you. I think that again, as I said, and I agree with Jack, what we always do, and what I don't think this takes away from, is like any law, any regulation. No, actually, that's the wrong word as well. Anyway, anything is agreeable. If you mutually agree with the tenant with a workable solution, then that should be, you should still be able to do that. But this is obviously if they don't want to move, as Jack said earlier, then what rights the landlords have.
I suppose there's the real big potential problem with any form of renters' rights billing at all is you have a plethora of the market. You have the majority of the market, and then you have the minority that lean into the benefits and take the piss. And we've had that. We've got over 300 tenants, so you do end up getting someone that is completely like playing the
system,
the model, really, which is a problem. And when we bought, we bought over 150 units in South London, not in great areas, and we inherited a lot of tenants. And this was before the Renters' Rights Bill. The best way, the cheapest way, and the most cost-effective way that we found is we'd actually approach the tenants directly, and we would say, we will advance you 3 months or 6 months of your future rent if you get out. And they would pretty much always take you up on it, because you're technically giving them 6 months rent free in their next accommodation. And funnily, what Dorian is saying is there anything else available for them to get housed? It's amazing how hard they work when they've got 6 months worth of cash coming in, and they go, "Oh, I've found something." It's like, "Oh, that was quick! Wow, you get on Rightmove, aren't you?" But if they don't want to leave, and you're just trying to get rid of them, and there's no monetary benefit to them, they just coast. They just coast there. Don't even. We've had a tenant. We've sent 2 properties a day for 3 months, essentially. I think, and she was very litigious, lent on ChatGPT to form legal argument, and you get the odd person that's just
a lot are doing that now. Actually, that's a good point, Jack. It's something I was going to raise separate to that. Is that I'm seeing a rise in the debates that or the challenges across supply chain, tenants, whoever it is. You can tell that their responses are ChatGPT or similar fed.
Funnily, before, if it ever got legal, it would then go into the lawyers going back and forth. So your lawyer going, "You've got a good you got a good stance here. I'll fight your corner." Now it's just ChatGPT battles back and forward, where my rights are these, my rights are these.
But this is even more reason for it to just be a very clear, like cutthroat line. It's 2 months notice, 2 months notice, and that's as it should be as close to that as possible.
I completely get what Ryan's saying. Essentially, what Ryan's saying is, if you had like a let the free market speak. If you had like a landmark and there was a barrier, and you said if you cross this line, it's a £5 fine, or if you cross this line, you get shot. When it's a £5 fine, you'll still get people crossing the line and taking photos because they can push the boundaries of things and they can accept the downside. But what you're saying is, if you just say you're out, they'll figure it out. But I do agree with Dorian that if there isn't accommodation, and we have had rental shortages, it does make it a little bit more difficult, and you've got to extend the timeframes that they have to move.
I agree, but think of the second and third order consequences of this, right? And just before I do that, to confirm, Section 8 still remains in its current laws, but the possession reasons under the Act are going to be revised and expanded to make more clarity for landlords. So
That's
anyone out there,
important. That's
yeah,
important. Yeah.
yeah.
Whatever reasons those Section 8s have.
Yeah. So Section 8 for now still stands, but it's going to be updated, so keep an eye out for that. So the reason I think of the second and third order consequences. Why do we have a housing shortage? We have a housing shortage because of these exact reasons. Like, it's not like we change this today and then think of the immediate consequence. It's like these things should have never been touched, and we'd have never got to this position we're in across the board. Because think about something like this, yeah? You got noisy tenants and they're being really noisy, and your neighbors are getting pissed off, and it's disrupting that local community, that fabric there of good people who understand that they're paying for a service, they're paying for rent. And we'll get on to whether people think you should make profit from rent and all that stuff anyway. Now, if I wanted to evict them, because I was like, look, you're being really disruptive to the neighbors, you're being really annoying, and they'll go, prove it, take me to court, do this, do that, because they can pull the legal strings, they can play the layers of bureaucracy, and ultimately destroy that local community and the fabric of those people that live there, impacting others, because it's so difficult to evict them on those grounds. If I just go, you're being noisy, mate, 2 months, you're out, they will not be noisy anymore. They will respect where they are and have more respect for the people around them, because there are consequences to actions. All this bureaucracy removes consequence. And I just think it should be as clear as, let the free market decide, and then it will settle. And then that empowers the individual, the tenant and the landlord, to be able to have more control over their outcomes, because it's simple and understandable. So it's like the tax system. The tax system's so complicated, no one really knows where they stand. You make it super simple, everyone knows where they stand. And this is the problem of the nanny state just coming more and more into our lives. And it is just going to make life worse for tenants.
What's
and
a nanny
particularly
state?
tenants. The nanny state. Well, the nanny state thinks we should control how you live in your homes. We should control how landlords rent. It's like, no, you shouldn't. The free market should, because the free market is what's built the modern world. The nanny state is what's gradually eroding it.
So, I mean, obviously, the looking at the market through our lens is, we look at control and growth and providing more housing. That, if you have sticky tenants, you can't turn around cash and compound value and grow the business and grow your portfolio. And equally, we like the free market, because if you do like something, you do X. If you don't, you don't. And that's how our mindset is. The government are obviously looking at lists of homeless people and trying to adjust the whole market to prevent that problem getting worse and actually try and improve it.
But they should be going, look, we got to just get ourselves out of the way, and it might get worse for a bit, and it might have to settle, but the free market will find the solution. And not just on the renters' rights bill. It's got to be across the board, from building regulation to planning laws to all of it. To make renters' lives better for renters, you have to allow for more accommodation to be built. To do that, we've got to deregulate in all these different pillars of the property sector, and that is the issue. The more they step in, the more difficult they make it for everyone else.
Can I just throw another thing into here, which I think is really valuable, which we're going to come on to shortly. But I think that one of the reasons this is a big issue for landlords is the annual rent increases. So if you can't prove that an annual rent increase is fair, I personally feel like you should be able to evict that tenant, because the affordability of that tenant might no longer be able to afford that particular property. Now, I'll explain why. We've had some properties that have gone on variable mortgages because of the market and the state that the market's been in. We've had some properties go on to 150% increase on energy bills, and as landlords we pay the energy bills over a year period. So we're at the coalface fighting that cost change. And yeah, there was energy bill caps, but we've gone through those. Essentially for the landlord, we might have to increase our rents above the market rent because our costs have gone up so much more significantly relative. If increasing rent by, let's say follow inflation, like 6-7% is considered fair, our costs have gone up more than 6-7% to run rental properties. I'm talking in some instances like 50-60%. So the problem you then face is we're in the free market of trying to figure out how this works for us now. We're going, hell, this is not as good. So do we change tack, do different strategies, try and deliver a different product? But we've got these sticky tenants in there that are now governed to actually fight back. If we say, well, our bills have gone up 60% on this property, therefore we're going to charge another 200 quid. And then they go, well, no, that's not fair rent, and you can't get rid of us.
And Jack, another thing here to prove that this is the government issue is net zero. Net zero targets has caused us to have huge energy bills. We could have complete sovereignty over our energy. 1.1 billion barrels of oil has just been found in the North Sea, but we're not going to extract it because of net zero. So again, the government's caused another problem, and now they're trying to legislate around that problem with if they ever decided to bring in rental caps or the fairness of increased rents. But they're the ones that cause the issue. So it's just constantly the issues come back to government. Anything in the property sector, it's so easy to draw a line to. Well, if the government didn't do that and didn't try and step in with that, well, then we'd be able to build more houses. It's supply and demand. Like, property sector is just so supply and demand centric that the more they make it difficult to build houses, the more renters get hit. And landlords, but really, it's a quasi asset class that's proxied against the pound. You're always going to win in the long run if you're leveraging securely. So the landlord will always win. There's not much the government could do about that unless they completely destroy the sector with overregulation and taxation and things like that. But they're not going to do that because they'd never get voted back in ever. Let's just go on to the next clause, just so we're chipping through these. So the next one is replacement of fixed-term tenancies. All tenancies will be converted to a single rolling periodic tenancy model. Tenants can end these with 2 months' notice, and landlords will rely on specific legal grounds for possession. So just to highlight two aspects here. One, I'm not so mad at this. This doesn't bother me so much. However, I think if the landlord and the tenant come to an agreement that there's a 12 months fixed term, that should just be their right to do that. Like, they should just decide, or they can go, it's rolling from the start. I think the consequence is, how do the banks think about security in assets where they are rolling periodic tenancies? What does that sort of do? But the banks will just have to adjust. So I'm not too worried about that. This clause in its own right, I'm not actually that bothered by, and I think it maybe plays into the free market a little bit. But go on, what do you think, guys?
I agree, completely agree. I also think where you just said there, if I'll bring it up in the next point actually, because it's kind of the same topic, but I agree, don't have a problem with it. If you got stock, people will leave. People leave anyway because of change of life. It just builds your I suppose lapsing of tenancy will change, but you've got to do a good product, and it actually also gives you opportunity to potentially look at the rental increases anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, no
Yeah.
problem with that. This is kind of what we do with our HMOs. Like we say, if it's almost like a subscription to us. Cancel if you want. See you later. We'll fill your room.
Yeah, and it comes back down to that, really. I mean, as we said earlier, I think that's all right, to be honest. It's just making sure that, to be fair, I would actually prefer it if I guess we would all prefer it if they would give a minimum fixed term, because I am also in agreement. It is a high turnover is a headache, and it does cost the landlord money, and it's just a nuisance. So if someone's going to commit to 6 months, they should commit to 6 months and then roll from there and give 2 months notice. But I suppose it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I think we could debate around the edges there of should there be an initial fixed term just to give some security to it and pay for the fixed costs of moving tenants out and void periods and shit like that. But ultimately, I think this puts more impetus on the landlord to create and maintain a desirable product. So I do think it's probably not the end of the world. This one might actually be quite a good thing.
I don't know about you though, but in today's world, when a tenant moves out and with just wear and tear, this maybe a separate debate, but you've got this wear and tear thing. But most tenants' bonds don't even cover the cost to redecorate. Give one coat of paint to the walls and ceilings anymore. The cost has way outstripped the level of the bond that we put in place. So it's just high turnover and just those turnarounds of re-cleans or redecks. The landlords will lose money. It's kind of like on a different scale, but Airbnb, you don't really want to do 1 and 2 days stay Airbnbs. You want
Yeah.
to really get three days and above because of the cleans.
You do, but I don't think we want regulation to decide that. I think we want free market incentives to decide that, i.e., landlord provides good enough product that tenants want to stay. They don't want to move, and also the managing agent is incentivized to be good enough at qualifying the right tenants for that type of property. I think it should just increase quality.
And I think from a lender point of view, I don't think there's an issue because lenders at the moment will lend to you if the property's vacant on an assumed rental.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it should be all right.
Top tip on that rolling tenancy: any landlords that outsource their management, make sure you are managing the tenant fine fees and the additional fees that the estate agent will be charging for new tenants.
Good point.
We manage it in house. I know Ryan does that for himself, but is a fee-driven business on the front. But you your profitability of your project. I mean, it in all fairness, in defence of the agent, it's more time and efforts for them to fill that property, so they should be charging because they've got an overhead to cover for that. But just make sure that you're privy to thinking about, right, if this tenant moves in for 3 months and leaves, and another one moves in for 3 months and leaves, and another one moves in for 3 months and leaves, one, is that agent filling the property with the right person in the first place? And two, what are their fees for that turnover of tenancy, which will probably be the highest fee across the board, even on top of end of tenancy cleans and other things like that. It's just something to be wary of if you do outsource management.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then next one, ban on rent bidding wars. Landlords and agents are prohibited from soliciting or accepting offers of rent that are higher than the initial advertised
This
price. I
this is
think
just ridiculous.
this is stupid. This starts to infringe on, well, it completely infringes on the free market, and it's sort of a rental cap. But I suppose you still have freedom to put in the initial rental price. And ultimately, what it's going to mean is landlords are incentivized now to put the rent at the highest price as it goes onto the market, rather than put it at a sort of medium ground to get someone in at a sort of fair value price, and then go, yeah, cool, they're a good person, they come in at that price. Now it's going to go top end, and it's so stupid.
Name one other service, product, or payment structure where if the seller is offered more than they're advertising it for, they're not allowed to accept it. It's just ridiculous. It's, imagine if we went to the government, Mr. Starmer. I've been back and forth with your HMRC department, and this year I've got to pay £30,000 in tax, but actually I want to pay £32,000. Is that okay?
Yeah, so I'm actually I'm in agreement with you both on this one. There's no debate. I think it's this is where it comes in where the market can pay, where the market can pay. And yes, unfortunately, you will have people that can't afford to stay in certain areas. That is unfortunate, but it is also where the other government systems come into place, like their affordable housing programs with RPs, like a certain specific zones like social housing. And I don't think that should be the market will cap itself. But as a landlord, like if I think of this now as my business, if we were capped on the price, the original price that we agreed or advertised at, we would be out of business right now. No, like no two ways about it. I know it's slightly different, but in a way it isn't, because I just think it's opens is a slippery road from here when that
Do you know?
starts happening.
Do you know what I was thinking would be a really cool business model for this? Is renting auctions, because it's, if you could get like a compliant auction business to rent your property, it starts at £1,000 per month, and everyone registers to bid, and then they bid up, and that's essentially it. But
I reckon that's cool. I think that's awesome. You should try that, Jack.
Try it, Jack.
thing is with auctions is evident that it's a reserve price, not a guide price. So the guide price is dictated by the market. That's the whole purpose of an auction. So whether there's a business model and that infringes on that anyway. But one thing, so for our listeners, what this is preventing is, one, people have got into bidding wars, overpaid for something, and not being able to sustain that rental payment. So they've kind of got into a position where they've overpaid to stay in an area, and it's not their affordability doesn't cover that more. That is just ludicrous. Just work out your own numbers and figure out what you can afford. Be an adult and sort yourself out. The other thing this is trying to prevent is wealth overriding rental areas with the people that are less fortunate or have less income, which, as Dorian said, there's areas in places where it's cheaper to live in other areas, and the people that can't afford those areas just unfortunately have to move. And that is because if you wanted to live in Westminster, you can't say, well, I can't afford that, so you can't cap the rent on that. It's like, well, that I've had to pay 30% more to buy this property, therefore I need 30% more in rent. That just is that just is what it is.
Yeah, because that same law isn't in place for sale prices.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't. I can't go to the seller. Actually, my mortgage amount is 250k, so I can't pay you more than you've advertised it for. So I'll buy it for you from less. It's just ridiculous. And then the other point of people, people getting into a position where they can't afford their own, it's just unless you've unless you've been sacked.
But ultimately, as an agent, you use referencing to see if they can pay for the rent. So like it comes back to the referencing. Well, when we referenced you could afford this rent. So there is an accountability metric in place. It's not like a landlord just goes, yeah, well, they've said they'll pay this amount, I hope they pay it. It's like, no, they've been referenced. We've seen their bank statements. We've seen their employment history. They've got a job. They've got a reference from their employer. They're earning this amount. It's 3 times rent or whatever. They should be able to afford it. So it's just crazy.
Isn't it funny? The government's trying to put this rule in place, yet they're the ones that when they were trying, well, as they were, still are, when they were ramping up trying to house all asylum seekers and immigrants, they were the ones overbidding on properties and literally breaking this own law.
They offered us so much money for HMOs, like more than what we'd get in the open market. Like, it was ridiculous.
This is a prime example of politics, and I've witnessed this firsthand, and I've said it on a call myself, where you have people in one part of the government throwing around ideological ideas when they've never really had to even deal with it before in their life. And then you have another side of the table who, when they actually need to do something themselves, realize that the law is stupid, and then they try to break it themselves in their own government.
Yeah.
Good question for you. Do any of you know any SME developers that are below 40 years old? And we know, probably across all three of us, we probably know about 1,000 developers that are under 40 years old. Have any of them had a one-to-one chat with anyone in government to understand what's happening on the ground?
Dorian's probably the only one I know.
I have, but I'm trying to think, do I know anyone else under 40?
I spoke to the local MP before, and the local mayor, actually. So, yeah, actually. But the local mayor here is amazing. He's all for free market.
Did they reach out to you? Did they want to learn about what's happening on the ground?
Yeah, the MP did. The mayor was at he does quite a few conferences with local business owners. To be fair, the mayor up here is like, he's different gravy. Like, he is an absolute G. Like, he's so for free market, commercially minded. Like, he's a sore thumb in the world of government bureaucracy.
Should employ him.
Oh yeah, love that. That'd be amazing. Ben Houchin, shout out. But yeah, I mean, Deer's a very good point.
It's a glaring review. He could probably put that on his CV, couldn't he? Testimonial from Ryan Beaumont. Absolute G.
Yeah, mate, absolutely.
Different kind of gravy.
Can I just say as well?
A lot thicker.
I've been on the receiving end of
that sounds good.
That exact of Ben Houchin. I've been on the receiving end of
Ryan likes
of,
that sort of stuff.
of bidding wars for properties. Back when I was skint and in the band days, we were trying to find a new place to live, and it was competitive. And I kept finding somewhere, getting it ready, blah blah blah, and then someone came in and bidded higher, and it was so annoying. But at no
Ryan was
point
the one then protesting with picket fences. This should be illegal. This should be.
no, because do you know what actually happened? Is I was the one sorting all that out, and the boys in the band would go like, "Well, that's not fair. Like, how come that they agreed this and that?" And I was like, "Well, look, if someone's willing to pay more, someone's willing to pay more." Even at the time when I had no knowledge of what's going on, you just common sense goes: if someone's going to pay more for it, if someone's going to pay more for it, we just got to find another property, and that's just how it goes.
But that's because you don't have a victim mentality.
Yeah, and that's the issue. We are catering for victimization of individuals.
Yeah, like I've it is annoying, but also I've always been like that as well. And I say like to people around here when sometimes happens, it's I don't really get like it's business at the end of the day, or it is what it is. You just gotta. What I always say is that it just means that we don't have a big enough pipeline. That's what it means.
Sounds like you need a bigger pipeline, Dorian.
Exactly, mate. Love it, love it.
All right, next clause, next clause. We're nearly through these now. So annual rent increases. So it touches on the same sort of thing. Rent can only be increased once per year, and a minimum of 2 months' notice must be given. Okay, I'm all right with that so far. I'm all right with that so far. I think that's sort of fair.
Yeah.
This bit I don't like. Tenants can appeal to a tribunal if they believe the increase is unfair. Now it gets into some bull like, okay, we're going to tribunal just to increase the rent. Like the first bit's all right. Second bit.
I don't think that's too bad either, to be honest with you. I think the first bit's absolutely fine, but obviously, if you try to ramp, when they mean if you've got comparables in the area that your rent is what other rents are currently are, I don't see how you can lose. So what's the issue?
But the issue is, say you're in Jack's scenario, and your gas has increased by 50%, and you're now in a 6 to 9 to maybe 12-month tribunal or back and forth process, because we all know these things aren't as quick as they're meant to be. Now you're carrying losses for even longer because of speculative unfairness. I just think anywhere where they try and regulate that is difficult.
I think the difficulty with first point, I think we're all in agreement of. Second point, I think the concept is okay, but the difficulty is the actual execution of that. And the reason I say that is because we probably get 50 valuations done a year on real estate properties. Pretty much all 50, I disagree with the valuer in some respect. And that is because there is so much, it's so difficult to prove that that's an alike property in a similar condition, same amount of bedrooms, same amount of facilities, Bosch appliances, garden, car parking. So how are you going to police what is fair? Because if I go, here's my comparable, and the tenant goes, here's a comparable, you go, well, that's not a comparable. It's got one less bedroom. The front door of the oven's hanging off. The property's not compliant. It's not pat tested. There's no EICRs. There's no gas safety cert. Of course, it's going to be cheaper. That's a rogue landlord. So then they're going to be the internal pessimist and pick up something that isn't, and then what you should be able to do is go, move there then.
Yeah, Jack, this is you're painting the perfect analogy, the perfect comparison. Yeah, who's the arbiter, and allowing bureaucracy to try and do its weight there. Here's the way you do find that exact answer is you go, all right, you're now kicked out. I'm going to put someone else in there, and if someone else pays that price, I was right. If they didn't, then shit, I was wrong. And now as a landlord,
Yeah,
I've lost because I've had
completely
a
agree.
churn void period.
So I think the issue with this is the second point is proving what is unfair. And I will say, and I am going to side with the landlord here, the landlord's going to have a way better handle on what is market rent for that property than the tenant. I don't care who the tenant is. It could be Rachel Reeves, it could be a lawyer, it could be even a lettings estate agent. The reality is the landlord should have a little bit more control over that. So I think the problem with that is it just opens a can of worms. You're going to be back. It's kind of like that. They always say that if you're going to go to court, typically, however many cases is, are agreed prior to any form of, agreement in court. This just opens up just aggro for tenants that just have too much time and are absolute Karens, and landlords that should just be able to make a quicker decision and get a result quicker than that, because it's wasting everyone's time. And that's
it's
the
wasting
beauty
the
of what you
voice,
say,
To
right?
be
Ryan.
fair though, guys, I think this is a nil point, and the reason why I think it's a nil point is because they can already do it anyway. If you increase the rent for a tenant in today's world using a Section 13, they can take you to tribunal. They've got the same rights.
Well, maybe we were talking about now and that, like, it's
Yeah, but it's always been in. So I think what you guys are talking about is pointless because this is not a change. The wording is there, but it's already in law.
so. Do you think the
Is
government's
that in Wales though?
put this in
No,
this
it's
bill?
in England.
Do you think the government's put this in this bill to raise awareness for the tenants' rights?
This is a snippet that Ryan's put in the dossier, so I haven't actually seen where that's come from. But I know, and obviously you guys will know, that if you using a Section 13 now to increase the rent or put in a rent increase in, the tenant already has a legal right to take you to tribunal, and they're just not removing that right. So this isn't a change. So you've built your entire businesses with that law in place. So you shouldn't see any effect on this.
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it until now. But
It's because you've never been taken to tribunal.
yeah, not for rent increases, not for rent increases. But I think they should get rid of it. I think they should definitely
What
take
I'm
it
saying
away.
is, what I'm saying with this bill now is this raising awareness that tenants will probably be more active in this space, implementing this. I mean, for me, it all evolves round wasting everyone's time and proving what is fair. Like, how can you prove it what is fair? Like, that's so opinionated that what we think is fair and what someone else thinks is fair is not wrong.
Yeah.
Neither of us are
You are,
wrong.
guys. I've just checked now. Tenants have been able to challenge the rent increases since the Housing Act 1988 through tribunal. So we are. This is just.
Fair. But still, if you look at what happened in London, I think the reason they've probably highlighted this is because of mostly what happened in London. Because there was a lot of political rhetoric around my rent's been increased by this much. They brought out all these stories, didn't they, of like greedy landlords increasing rents. They tried to make it look like landlords are just greedy. Actually, landlords' mortgages are going up, the gas was going up, maintenance costs, and just everything else going up, tax. And that was the real reason for it. So I think it's just another impetus on, by the way, tenants, you've got these rights now, and it's just empowering tenants in that way. And fine, if it has been in place and it's not been utilized, that's okay. But the market hasn't been so bad. As the market gets worse, maybe it will get utilized more. So it's not to say that it might not still become an issue. But fair play, if it's already been in, then maybe it's not the end of the world. But nonetheless, I still agree with the first part, not the second.
To go back to that point, Ryan, if tax hadn't been increased by the government and utility bills hadn't been increased as much as they've inflated, and legislation and legals and compliance hadn't been increased by the government, the property price relative to the income that is produced, whether that's rents or to buy, would be better off than those changes. So basically, the government is having more of an impact to the cost of housing for everyone in the public than the landlord.
And it was the government that increased those utilities as well with net zero targets. So, all right. I think we got three more. So, discrimination protection. Landlords will be legally prevented from discriminating against prospective tenants based on whether they have children or receive benefits. I mean, obviously, discriminate. Let's just caveat: discrimination in any right is wrong. But if I'm a landlord and I've built a property for a given use case, and if I don't want people who are on benefits in there, or I do want people on benefits in there, who's to say? Why should someone be able to tell me who I'm allowed in there? Because if I put someone on benefits in there, what kind of profile of person is that? Is that the kind of person I want to do business with? It's like it's removing the idea that it's a business, it's a commercial relationship, and it's just kind of going, no, this is a given right.
Choice of word in there is excellent, Ryan.
Look, I'm not afraid to say it.
Is this someone I want to do business with?
Yeah, but that should be how it is, right? Like if I'm going to put someone in a property that I've spent maybe hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds on, depends what the property is.
Define benefits, though. This is the problem, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of different benefits in today's world.
Government supported income, so typically someone that's reaching benefit from universal credit is benefits, I would have said.
I mean, I understand.
Which is, on the other side is quite a good income because they can't get sacked.
It's true, but let's
So it
say I
depends
build.
what the product is.
Yeah, I just think the whole like landlords should just have a choice of who moves into their property within reason.
I'm just gonna say it as it is. It, what I don't care what anyone says, that the discrimination laws are also in. I don't I think you can advertise and say, though, I don't want people with benefits and this is removing
Yeah,
that. So it's enhancing the discrimination laws. But ultimately, even with the existing discrimination laws, I know firsthand, and it has always happened and will happen. Any landlord who doesn't want a tenant in will find a different legal reason by just saying, no, they're not happy with their reference, they're not happy with their credit file, they're not happy with their employment status, they're not happy with their affordability. They can say anything that's under a legal point of view just to get around this point. So
they can do, and I completely agree. There's many ways around it. However, it now empowers the tenant to do something about it and go, well, this is against the law, so I'm going to take you to court. So I'm going to report you to the ombudsman.
if the landlord says, don't want to give you the property because you're on benefits, then, and that's in the law, then of course. But that's just like they would say now, I'm not going to give you the property because you're in a wheelchair. Like, well, hang on, that's,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
who would say that?
yeah, yeah. It is
I know
sticky.
a
I
lot of
do.
people that would say that, Dorian.
Yeah,
I've all of my family friends are builders and from a building site, and I tell you something, I cannot repeat a lot of the things they say on the podcast.
Uh,
yeah. I just think why remove the choice? I just think it's just another one of those things that just gives more ammunition to take things down a bureaucratic take it to the ombudsman. I'm going to sue you for this, or I know you haven't chose me because of my this and that victimization. Whereas if it was just a blanket, it's choice.
the children one, sorry, Jack, the children one, I actually disagree with this, because the thing, if I owned a block of flats, for example, and I knew in those flats that they had older people in there, or people with disabilities and stuff, and I had a middle floor flat available, and I know the building was fairly old, so soundproofing isn't really the best. I wouldn't want to put children in there because I know it's going to cause a nightmare. Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't like. I would think I've got a fair reason to say we can't put children in here. Like you, so it's not the right place for them. But if that's illegal,
I think the government just need to be more astute and efficient with all of the affordable contributions that we're making to sort the housing for families out themselves, rather than trying to lean on us more.
yeah, they're doing it. They're doing it because, as you said, there's children in temporary accommodation, which is obviously what my business is all about as well. I'm actively trying to make a difference in that. But it is a lot of these issues have stemmed from government making really poor choices. Like, I mean, like they favor ecology, and grass is more important than housing in lots of parts of Wales. That is ridiculous. In areas where there's children
Yeah,
in temporary accommodation, we can't build because they want to retain grass in the white land in LDP, which is stupid.
yeah, and this is where they're trying to put a plaster over an end user issue, where there's structural issues in those different pillars of the delivery cycle where they need to allow for more housing growth, and then they wouldn't have a lot of these renters issues.
Even a step further, Dorian, we've had the properties vacant, brand new, refurbished. We bought property for, I think, 1.1 million quid, and we spent £1 million creating 14 semi-self-contained studios. Went to the council, so this property is ready. It took them 6 months to fill it. So the buildings are there. 6 months to fill a ready-made social housing property in South London. And when I was speaking to the housing association about this, they were like, the local council have families come in and people come in trying to get housing, and because they haven't sorted out their ID card, sorted out their rental structure, done all this and all that, which, by the way, is quite a straightforward process. It's just that they're really arduous when how they approach it and really inefficient. There's people
Don't work.
there's families going to stand in
Yeah.
McDonald's to warm up, then they go back out into the car, and they're you can walk past the McDonald's and see them, and then I'll walk another half a mile and see 14 unlet bedrooms in our property.
Well, we've got a similar example now. So we secured a site for 20 apartments down here in Wales, and we had a housing association say yes, they do it. They would want to do it. They got demand. The local authority basically said that they wouldn't support the development from a social housing point of view, because the local authority struggled to let a property in that area, and this is the local authority themselves. But then the housing association provided evidence, said, yeah, but we've let properties in the area. We've got a waiting list in the area. And the local authority said, no, because we struggle to let a property there, we're not supporting this area, full stop. And you're like, what?
Mental.
That's currently ongoing now. That's a real live case study. So it's just
Morons.
dead. Yeah.
Fucking morons, mate. All right, last 3 points. Last 3 points. Decent home standard. The measure applies the decent home standard to the private rented sector, ensuring properties meet minimum quality requirements. What do you think, guys?
I think Devil will be in the detail of this, of what the minimum quality requirements are.
This is so important, because there's stupid things going on now. Like, for example, if you've done an electrical certificate but not give it to the actual tenant, then it deems the property uninhabitable. That was a case study going down in Wales at the moment, based on solicitors trying to find loopholes for tenants to not pay rent, but High Court just overturned it. But it's all of what will happen now on the back of this, right? Is a string of lawyers finding technical wording interpretations to start causing reasons for tenants to not pay rent. That is going to be an issue in that.
Activist and opportunistic lawyers, yeah. This is the problem. More bureaucracy, the more laws, the more difficulty, the more lawyers and accountants make money. Like, that's it. And it's just stupid as shit. But I do agree there should be a minimum quality standard for health and safety reasons. Like, you should have a gas cert, you should have an EICR. I do think that's fair. Like, you should be a safe property, because a tenant's not going to know. They're not going to know if the electrics are safe. I think that what determines something as being safe, that the actual regulatory side of that, should be simpler, because I think they take it like the licensed areas are overkill. The kind of stuff they make you do to deem it licensable and safe, like latches on windows and all that kind of stuff. But I do think there should be, the infrastructure of the building should be safe. If it looks like it's falling down, and you obviously can't rent that out, like under no circumstance you'd be able to rent that out if a roof's going to fall in or something. But beyond what's common sense and obvious, it's just like, how far do you take it? And a lot of the mold and all those sort of issues, which is where quite a bit of this comes from, is Awab's law that came in because of over insulating properties to meet EPC standards, and now the properties now they sweat because they can't breathe as well the way these old Victorians were built to do so. So it's like the own government's standards are like causing an effect that then affects some other law that penalizes the tenant for their health and actually the landlord as a financial consequence. It's just like a feedback loop of stupidity. But anyway, next one. New landlord database. A national register of landlords and their properties will be created to help both tenants and landlords. No, it won't. That is just to help the government get more data on us and help HMRC scrutinize us more. I think this is one of those freedom and breach things that I'll just never like. What do you guys think of this, though?
What is it? A landlord database and their properties. What do you mean?
So by law now, if the council or the government walk into your office and say, give me all of your information on that property.
We already have to do that in Wales under Rent Smart Wales. We have to have a license, so we have to give them all of our properties, all the details, the tenant, so for us in Wales, we already do this.
I mean, it's a difficult one because I don't really like it, but it also means that the amount of I think it's something like 80% of the buy-to-let or rental properties owned in the UK are owned by landlords that only have one property. This is going to push them straight out of the market. They're going to be, I can't be bothered to deal with that. I can't be bothered to make sure everything is all in order, every assessment certificate, which is good in a way for professional outfits.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit, I think they should be able to request specifically all the information on the property in current day to prove that it is compliant. And that's it.
Personally, I have no issue with this.
My issue is just that why the fuck should the government have all this data on us? Like, why? Why the fuck should they? Like, look at, like, what they did with the debanking of, like, Nigel Farage, the debanking of me, and, like, the debanking of all kinds of people for political reasons. I just think you give the government too much data and power. Why? Well, why should they have it?
To be fair, I think like the famous saying, you can't measure what's the word again? Fuck, you can't oh my god, what is it?
Go
Why
on,
is that gone
use
through
that
my
brain.
head?
Use that brain. Go on, boy.
What the
Go on, boy.
hell?
Go on, boy. Counts 10.
you can't you can't something what you don't measure. What is it, Jack? You'll know this.
Is it
You can't manage what you don't
you
measure.
can't manage
Yes,
or
yes. Can't manage what you don't measure. And I just, if I was in government, I would want to know. I like data. I would want to know at the tips of my fingertips how many rental properties do we have there? Who they owned by?
Yeah, but think of the consequence of that. That's you're a good person, D. You're a good person.
why is it not like so your car, for an example, there's a government portal where you can log in, go on someone's registration and see that it's got it's taxed and it's MOT'd. Why isn't there just a portal like that where it's EICRs, gas safety certs that then is just submitted and
Yeah.
is live, and that's what they have? They don't have all of the ins and outs of our documents in our. I mean, who's gonna go through all of that? Just aggro.
I just think it gives them too much power, just too
Bit of
much. They
AI,
just
maybe.
shouldn't
The ON,
centralize
yeah, AI, the
data.
ONS, Office of National Statistics. We own X number
But
of
D,
properties.
The only reason D's okay with this is because he's just glad that we now have to suffer too. Like
Yeah, basically.
if
Yeah,
he
yeah.
didn't have this in place in Wales, he would not be saying I'm fine with this.
no.
Yeah, you're probably right, but as you say, we had to go through it.
But D, your lens is a good point though, because like what you've said it from a good heart place. Like I think it would be good if the government can manage these things better, blah blah blah. But the government doesn't manage things well, and they do use and abuse power. So the more we give them, the more they can use and abuse. And I just think it should be the complete reversal of that. Like it should be the complete reversal.
Look, I am with you both, and you're right. Our government is very poor, and unfortunately, I can't remember the last time we had a good government. To be honest with you,
Do you mean poor or poor?
poor
Like,
as in
Dog
crap.
poor.
and and it's unfortunate that the bottom line is that the public confidence in government is so low, the trust in government is so low that it just no one wants them to bring in new ideas because they're like, stop with the new ideas and sort out what you've got to sort out already.
Get out of the
You've
way.
got
Get out of the way. Literally, fuck off out of the way. Like, I need to stop swearing, but like, just get out of the way. That's like, it costs nothing. It saves taxpayer money. It costs nothing to do. Just get out of the way and let us figure it out. We're much smarter than you.
I do feel like the government are constantly thinking about new changes, new ideas, but they haven't sorted the out. They've just that's behind them. They don't want to deal with all that, and that's the problem.
Last one, pet requests. Tenants will have the right to request a pet in their rental property, and landlords cannot unreasonably deny this request. I've been in this situation before.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either, personally, and I'm a pet owner.
Yeah, I think it should just be down to a decision between the landlord and the tenant.
The real big problem we have in modern day is sometimes the tenant might identify as a pet. You know, we're in a world where someone might come forward and be like, "Hello, I identify as a lizard," and you go, "Well,
Jack,
now we've got the
did
pet
you,
request. Who's your guarantor on this lease? Where's your owner?"
did you
Um,
see? Did you see in America a state trooper pulled over a person who was filming themselves because most of these people they do that and like to live stream themselves. He was trying to identify as a cat or something like that. So he couldn't. He didn't have to follow certain rules because he identified as a cat. And the state trooper turned around and said, "All right, no problem, sir. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ring pest control, and they're going to come down and impound you, and you will need somebody to come and bail you out. And if you don't, you might be given the lethal injection." Like, whoa!
That's good.
Treat you as a
So
stray cat.
are we in quick agreement that they should just be between the tenant and the landlord? Like it's just a simple one.
I am completely against this. A landlord would know which properties they want pets to go in. Like, yes, the tenants can live there, but ultimately the landlord owns that building, has a mortgage on it, has obligations on it. The tenants just can give 2 months' notice and leave. And like as we said before, the value of the bonds do not cover the cost of damages at all these days, let alone the cost of just redecorating to relet. So I'm against it.
Do you know what? I actually got a good example here of a freaky pet owner. Because yeah, it's one thing having a dog or being a nice family with a dog. Yeah, fair enough. Like I personally don't really mind too much. Obviously, in a HMO, it's a non-negotiable. But I know of a tenant who had 20 hamsters, 100 rabbits, loads of fish, 3 dogs, 5 cats. Like it was mental. And one of the maintenance
Your
guys
flat as
had
well.
it in. It was a 2-bed terrace. It wasn't our tenant, but our maintenance guy at the time, before we had him full time, he'd go around and do other jobs, and he he showed us, mate, and it was ridiculous. Like some people are just hermits, and they'll just gather all these pets, and obviously the property gets completely deteriorated and damaged. So
We had one that I think I've said it before. It was a flat. They had fish tanks full, like several fish tanks, just with closed windows, and it was causing condensation.
Also, you got to think about if you are paying for the bills as a landlord, the cost to run the incubators or the fish tanks or whatever it may be. I mean, for me, this is getting a pet should be an adult decision. Should be, I want to take care of this thing. My living capacity warrants me and allows me to do that. It shouldn't be retrospective. You shouldn't just go and get a pet and be like, well, every landlord's got to now let me have it in my house. It's a responsibility and obligation that someone's taking on. And like I said, people do get carried away with pets. I mean, we've only ever had
pets
one.
can destroy carpets, they can chew up joinery, and like they can damage a property.
100%. Your property is a lot more haggard after having any pet. We've only ever had one dog in mine and my wife's house, and it, it's not as well kept as if there wasn't a dog.
Yeah. Yeah, cats as well and stuff like that. But yeah, okay, guys. Well, that brings us to the hour mark. I'm not gonna lie. I thought we were gonna speed through the renters' rights bill and then get to questions. But I mean, look, it was good that we actually all debated on a few bits here. It shows that it's not too clean cut, all this stuff. But I think we genuinely agreed on most of it. I think that the sticky point that we sort of debated was the notice period, and yeah, I think that was it, wasn't it? It was the notice period was the main thing.
So can we just from a strategy perspective, I think it's worth us touching on what. So obviously we've got buy-to-lets, we've got HMOs, we've got social housing HMOs, we've got rent to HMO, which I think is one of the biggest risks in this space because you've got a lease that's ending commercially, but the tenants cannot leave commercially. HMOs, I kind of think most of these are okay. Obviously, we don't allow pets in our HMOs anyway because it's a shared house, but the rest of them are kind of there or thereabouts. I don't think it massively impacts social housing because typically they're on a slightly different structure anyway and coming via universal credit. But one thing I do think is quite a large risk is if you've got a rent to HMO and you can't get the tenants out, therefore you're liable. Where does that go? You've got a 3-year contract with the landlord. You're renting it back out to HMO tenants. You can't get them back out. What do you do?
What do you do, Jack? Tell us.
You don't do rent to rent HMO.
Yeah, rent to rent is stupid, absolutely stupid. I just want to double down on the point of the notice period. Like, I just think 2 months' notice. Either way, if you don't pay your rent, you should be out in a month.
It's too soon. Too soon.
Dorian's not happy with that.
I don't mind 2 months from the tenant, but honestly, I don't think it's fair that landlords can give tenants just 2 months' notice. It's not enough time in today's world.
Why would a landlord do it if they didn't have a good reason? If I'm renting a property, I want the tenant to stay as long as possible.
So what's the problem in that not having that as a just a no fault requirement then? Because the Section 8 still give you 2 months' notice for valid reasons.
But they might have 20 dogs. There might be loads of
That's
noise.
a valid reason. If they've breached the contract, that's a Section 8.
Yeah, but then it has to go to tribunal, and they can tie me up in court, and they can not pay their rent, and they can play this.
Section 21s have to go to court if they don't leave.
Yeah, but if it was just as cookie cutter as landlord's giving you 2 months' notice, mate, you're out. So you should have behaved.
But if it's a mandatory ground in Section 8, it's also still cookie cutter.
Yeah, but it's not. Like, get a tenant out
It's
is
a ma-
not
if it's
cookie cutter.
mandatory. If it's a mandatory ground under Section 8, the court have to give you, and you've
Yeah.
served it correctly. The court have to give it.
The court do, but that I've seen cases take 12 months in court.
Same as
because it just
21.
takes
Same as
so
Section
long.
21. Just because you serve a Section 21 doesn't mean you have to legally leave.
Exactly. So there should be no court. It should just be 2 months.
So basically,
There
No,
should
now,
be-
now, you should be no court.
As in, there should be court if there's
They established courts way before us
fail
and
us.
for valid reason.
That fail us, not for valid reason. The court systems don't work, like, and it costs the taxpayer loads of money.
Mate,
Like, if for these reasons they don't work,
right,
because
you're probably more educated than me, but I'm going to buy you a history book on
for these reasons,
on rental, I
court-
can guarantee
that
there
is right.
isn't a history book on rental acts, Dorian.
Exactly.
Unfortunately,
yeah, there just isn't. This is all new shit.
No,
that's
on
come in.
courts, not on rental act, on courts of why we have
I
court.
agree with. Of course, I agree with
You
courts,
just
but the
said
whole
no
idea,
courts.
yeah, for this reason, for this use
Oh,
case,
right.
like,
Oh, specifically.
it's-
Okay, sorry.
yeah, and
Right.
in general, I just think the courts,
I don't think you can ever abolish anything court from anything.
That's right. That's what I said. I misunderstood what Ryan was saying. I thought he said he'd get rid of the court system.
yeah, no courts, free for all.
But the problem is Ryan's saying that it shouldn't go to whether it's Section 21 or Section 8. It should be 2 months either way. That's it. But then the tenant could still take you to court that 2 months policy is not correct, and that's not a section arrangement. They could just take you to court. So the court's still there. I'm
removes
going to
the
prompt
empowerment.
Candy in the middle of you two arguing through that. The SpongeBob 3 hours later, because I could just see you two arguing on that.
It'll be 2 months.
Look, boys, as you know, like, constructive debate is healthy. It's and I encourage it with my team as well. Everyone should be entitled to their view.
It's my favorite part of the podcast is when we do find disagreeing grounds, because it's like, okay, well, where are we coming at it from? But I've got to shoot, guys, so I've got ops meeting in a sec. But this has been a good episode, nicely done. It feels good, bring a bit of structure back, gives us something to all talk around. So we'll try to do more of this, guys. Sorry we didn't get around to the questions, but we've got those for next time. If you've got questions, or if you've got input, or you've got insights about the things we spoke about today, drop them in the comments on the YouTube channel, because we're now going to have a community manager going through, picking up all that stuff so nothing's missed. If you engage with us, we will see it, and we'll try and bring it to the podcast. Well, we will bring it to the podcast and talk about it or debate it. So
Hope you've
thank you.
enjoyed that hour and quarter of a debate of the Renters Act. So happy Friday.
Yeah. All in all, I don't think it's the end of the world. For investors out there, I think professionalize and you'll be fine. I just don't see this being the end of the world. I think for tenants, this could make life stickier for landlords that leave the market, and then there's going to be less stock. But let's see what happens. Big love. And also, if you want to come to any of our events, we're hosting a go-kart event that's coming out. By the time this comes out, I think it's going to be next week. So make sure you get your tickets. You can click the link in the description of the podcast or in the Instagram bio. There's a link there. Come to that.
28th of November.
28th of November is the go-karting, and then we've got the Ground Up live event 9th of Jan, where we're going to have this kind of discussion with you guys in the audience, and we're all going to go around different topics and various things, and we're going to show you case studies and try and have a really interactive and healthy day, and then go for a big piss up afterwards. So make sure you come along, bring your friends. You get discounts if you bring friends. Big love, and we'll see you next week. Subscribe.
Oh my God, it's Ryan.
Oh my God, shut the
Ground up sound. Ooh, yeah. Real estate deal. We lay 'em down.